I have a controversial opinion for you guys. Manchester United aren't very good at football. I think we all think that. Manchester United clearly not very good at the moment. The question is, why is it going so wrong? And a term that I've used a few times recently is identity crisis. And I really think that is what the team is going through at the moment. And I think it's the case for the manager as well. Recent quotes have really proved this. This is a quote after the game the other day. The players decide how you play. Ajax has a very typical and characteristic style of play. With Manchester United, I will always show different football. I did so last year as well. We play much more direct football here because I have the players for that here. So this is an idea of, being direct as a team. But then we got this quote just a couple of weeks ago against Sheffield United where he's talking about every time we had to change at the back. If you look back to last year, we had a very good back four. It was consistent every time we controlled the game. So in one quote just not long ago at all, he's talking about wanting to control the game. And then in another quote, he's talking about wanting to play more direct football or having the players to play direct football. So there's an identity crisis in this team, and I think we see it in the recent starting 11 as well. Let's go through it. What's Andre Onana suited to as a footballer? Short passing football, playing out from the back, absorbing pressure. What are Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire suited to? Not that. Not playing short football, not playing it out from the back, because they're not very press resistant. The same in the case of someone like Victor Lindelof. Then we've got a midfield of Amrabat and Eriksen, who are more suited to, again, slowing it down a bit and controlling it a bit more. Then we've got Scott McTominay, who's more suited to transition. Bruno Fernandes, who is one out of position, but also probably more suited to transitional football. Marcus Rashford, who suits to transitional football more. Rasmus Højlund, who is a blend in between. But I think we can see, even in this starting 11, there is an identity crisis. There's a mixture of footballing ideas within the starting 11, and that's causing problems for United. Because again, we've got some players which perhaps want to slow it down and play the ball out from the back, and then we've got others which want to cannon it forward. For example, if you look at Amrabat and Casemiro are probably our two holding midfielders right now. In terms of profile, they couldn't be further from each other in the way that they play in possession. So I think, again, we go back to that term, identity crisis. And it's leading to real issues on the pitch for Manchester United. Now, the good thing here is that this can be fixed in time because we will see players come back from injury eventually. And when we do see that, we will see something closer to what we expect from Ten Hag, which is, if I can find the players, eventually Luke Shaw coming back, eventually Lisandro Martinez coming back, hopefully Mason Mount getting into the side, hopefully Anthony returning to the right wing. Something like this now looks like a much more of a team which is on the same page. You could even take Maguire out for Rafael Varane as well. In this team, we've got Onana, who wants to play out from the back, Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, Dalot, Mason Mount, Amrabat, Anthony. They're players which want to slow it down a bit more. So I think some of the problems which Ten Hag is facing, it's just a case of the injuries and a squad which has been built poorly over the past 10 years. There's still Jose Mourinho players in this side. There's still Louis van Gaal players in this side. It's a bit of a mess in that way. However, there are also massive tactical problems, and this is where I have my bigger concerns and where I think Ten Hag needs to sort it out a bit more.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFIFA for 10% off when you order.
So just to quickly recap it there, I think because of injuries, Erik ten Hag has been left with a very, very mixed squad. Some players which want to go direct, some players which want to play the ball shorter. So I think, like I've said already, some of that will be addressed when we see players return from injury. In terms of how you solve that problem in the short term, I'm not too sure. We will be covering it live on the stream this afternoon though, so make sure you tune in for that. But like I said, some problems will be solved by players returning. Other problems are on this guy, tactically setting the team up wrong. In the first phase in possession, in the middle phase in possession, in the final phase in possession. In the high press, out of possession, in the mid block, out of possession, in the deep phase, out of possession. Erik ten Hag, for me, is getting at least 6 tactical things wrong at the moment, which drastically need to change. So let's look at some of these things and head over to Want Video Analyzer Pro to do so. A great video analysis software if you guys want to check it out. There will be a link in the description down below so you can go get it for yourself. We'll start with the high press. We've covered this plenty of times before. This is a clear problem in the Manchester United structure. We can see that Manchester United press high up the pitch, And we're trying to force the ball one way like this, so Ederson will play the ball across to Ruben Dias. And basically, once that ball has gone one way, United use that as the trigger to shift across the pitch and apply pressure. We can see this here, all the players shuttling across to a left-hand side, leaving us tied up man-to-man. Lovely. What more could you want? It's a man-to-man press, it's working pretty well. Except it's not, because we don't connect the press on this side, which means that Gvardiol just here has all the time in the world to receive the ball, get the ball down, and play forward. So that's a real problem in the Manchester United pressing structure. The team doesn't press very well at all, and most good teams are exploiting this against Manchester United. We've seen Wolves do it, we've seen Spurs do it, we've seen Arsenal do it, we've seen City do it. This goes back to last season, Barcelona done it. This is a clear problem. I also have a problem with the mid-block structure, particularly when United kind of get dragged out, the ball goes backwards, and United feel that they can go steal the ball. Especially when you consider that most teams these days are building possession in a 3-2 shape, in a 2-3, something like that. They have 5 players often, plus also the goalkeeper. And United only really play this mid-block initially with 4. But again, it's the fact that the 4 feel that they can go get the ball. They don't sit off as a 4 and be compact with their midfield tight behind them. They try and steal yards, they try and get further up the pitch. Which means that when a team like Manchester City have Kyle Walker here, remember him in this position. They're going to pass the ball back to Ruben Dias, so again, remember him in this position. We can see United just starting to get dragged out here. The ball's going to go to Ederson, and we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Manchester United players. But consider, again, where we've seen City players so far already, which means that when City play the ball out like so, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Manchester United players here, but we've got Ederson, we've got, I believe that's Gvardiol, we've got Rodri here, we've got John Stones here, but we've also got Kyle Walker down the bottom here somewhere, and also Ruben Dias. So 4 United players have felt that they can go win the ball, so they've squeezed high, but Manchester City have 6 players here. 6 versus 4, do the maths. United are not going to come out on top in that situation. Not when they're half pressing, half trying to get the ball, but not fully committing. It's never going to work. So this is another massive problem that Manchester United have, in my opinion. The mid-block has a lack of players, and players are trying to steal yards, and it leaves people like Mason Mount getting 2v1'd in the middle of the park, making it too easy for Manchester City to move the ball here and move the ball forward. So this is another tactical issue. The other issue I have with United off the ball is the way that they defend in deep areas, and particularly the cutback. Again, we've covered this a few times on the channel, so we're not going to go too in depth here. But United concede far too many cutbacks. We can see here that as Bayern attack earlier in the season, we've got 3 Bayern players all on the edge. And in this big space, which we've got marked out in kind of greyish black here, there's not a Manchester United player. I mean, these feet are just about in there. But this space is all Bayern. That's pretty horrifying from a defensive point of view. And again, as the ball is going to come forward, Jamal Musiala, of course, a really good ball carrier, making it life difficult for United. But the ball comes forward, again, we can see these 3 Bayern players. We've got Gnabry, we've got Harry Kane, and we've got Leroy Sané, all finding themselves in a position where they are unchallenged. The cutback is another massive issue that Manchester United have, because Casemiro and Christian Eriksen, for example, when he plays, aren't very intelligent when tracking, and Eriksen doesn't have the legs to get there. Scott McTominay isn't very good in this way. There's a few problems. So again, this is an issue that Manchester United have defensively. I think, though, that we would all also agree that United have problems on the ball. Take this goal kick against Manchester City the other day. Onana plays the ball wide to Victor Lindelof at left back. And what we can see, basically, is that as Lindelof gets his head up and looks forward, there is not enough movement in front of him. There's not enough patterns of rotation and players moving into positions to make people free. We can see Sofian Amrabat here. His passing lane is cut by 2 players, and we've got the same for Christian Eriksen out wide, cut by the defender here. But there's not enough movement from the United players to change this. You know, can Amrabat pull into this position or pull into this position over here to make life a little bit more difficult? Something else I don't like at the moment from a tactical point of view is that we often see one of the centre-backs step forward almost into midfield to make a bit of space. Now that works when you're playing Alessandro Martinez. It doesn't work when you're playing Johnny Evans, Rafael Varane, Harry Maguire. Those guys can't do it. So for me, that is another tactical problem, because it means that quite often United have no options. They work the ball back to Andre Onana, who takes one touch, looks up, sees nothing on, and decides, I've just got to weddy this long. And whilst he is a good long passer, this isn't something you want to rely on. He isn't a long ball goalkeeper. His speciality is playing the ball short. So this is another tactical problem. United also have tactical problems higher up the pitch when trying to control possession, when trying to move the ball forward. And the big issue, again, something I've pointed out recently, is the gaps and the spacing of players when trying to build possession. There is no player here representing a midfielder trying to get on the ball, trying to control the game for United, and trying to progress the play. Again, this comes down to having a mixture of profiles in the squad. United don't seem to know what they want to do. It really feels like United are confused in their tactical approach. It doesn't make sense. If you look at this shape, and this really confuses me, and you can probably see that on my face, I don't understand what you're trying to do with this setup. The players are far too high. It would suggest you're trying to play a more direct style. But again, you've then got players like Amrabat and Christian Eriksen, perhaps, who don't suit that direct style. Anthony, again, who doesn't suit that direct style. So again, it doesn't really add up. And as a result, on the ball, it's leading to a real lack of creativity in the Premier League. These stats from Sky Sports the other day before the game. I'm not sure why I'm floating so high here. This is concerning, though. These are not good numbers. I mean, shout out Jadon Sancho on his 76 minutes played this season. But we can see the expected goals, the chances created for the front line is not good enough. Now, some of this, of course, is on the forwards. We've got wingers here who should be creating more opportunities, but also from the midfield, and also the whole team structure needs to be better. Now, my concern with it all is that it feels that Ten Hag is abandoning some of his possession philosophies to try and make United better in transition. And I think, to suit the current squad. Again, if we go back to the current starting 11, McTominay suits transition, Fernandes, Rashford, perhaps Rasmus Højlund. The centre-backs don't want to play with the ball deep. So quick, direct transitioning football kind of makes sense. So I get that from Erik Ten Hag. And United have looked decent in transition. I thought United were threatening against City for the first 30 minutes or so. But at the same time, when you open up a transitional game, it also means you have to defend a transition as well. That team cannot defend the transition because Eriksen doesn't have the legs to do it. Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes don't negatively transition well enough. When we see Casemiro in here, he doesn't have the physicality to cover the ground. Lindelof cannot play as a fullback in this way. Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire are not transition defenders which can defend large spaces. So again, it's confusing. We don't have a starting 11 here which is suited to playing possession football, but it's also not suited to transitional football either because they can't defend a transition. And this is why this team has an identity crisis. They don't seem to know what they're doing. And Ten Hag's got a job on his hand here to try and find a solution. Personally, I still think he is the man for the job. Because if we look at his starting 11, we're talking about the Ten Hag football. Amrabat is his signing, Onana is his signing, Eriksen is his signing, Rasmus Højlund is his signing. I mean, to be fair, you can argue Johnny Evans as well, but I don't think he was ever really, meant to play for United. Apart from that, you got Lindelof, who I believe was signed by Mourinho, Maguire by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Dalot, Mourinho, Rashford, who was brought in by Van Gaal through the youth system, McTominay is a Mourinho player, Bruno Fernandes is an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer player. You can still see that this is a mixed squad. If you look at Manchester City, they're all Pep Guardiola players. So I still think this is mixed, and like I said earlier in the video, I do still think certain problems will be addressed. If Luke Shaw can return, if Lisandro Martinez can return, if Kobbie Mainoo can be what we want him to be, if Anthony can get back in the first team, I think we will see a change, and I think we will see United playing better football, particularly with the addition of Mason Mount as well. The problem is, Ten Hag needs to find a way to make it that far, to keep his job for the next few months, to get those players back from injury. Truthfully, before then, as a fan, just being completely honest with you, I'm not expecting to see any good football played by Manchester United before the return of Lisandro Martinez and Luke Shaw. I genuinely don't think we'll see it without those two. However, like I said, Ten Hag needs to find a solution. It's not purely transitional football because this team can't do it defensively. It's not purely possession football because this team can't do it in deep areas. But there's got to be some sort of middle ground, which hopefully we will find on live stream later. So again, subscribe to the channel, get notifications on, and together we will come up with a solution for Erik Ten Hag. But in terms of today's video, that is all for today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.